Okay, hi everyone. I'm Cyrus Todiwala at Café Spice Namasté. This is my usual demo kitchen. And of course, we do different things here. This academy. And today we are going to firstly cook some rice. The idea is to show people how simple it can be to cook some rice in the oven where you get a better yield than cooking on the pot, in the pot on the stove top. And this only comes from experience, of course, but it's easy to share the information with you so that everybody can then start playing. So ideally for a pulao, now the word pulao is how we say it. Pilav is what people normally say in Britain. The original word comes from Persia. It's called polo. Polo simply means infused rice. When you infuse rice with different flavors, or different condiments, or different spices, or whatever else, you name it after that particular thing that you do, as in paella. So paella is also a Persian, originated from the Persians, came with the Moors to Spain, and then became the classic dish of Spain, and everything else started to go into it. But it simply means infused rice. And we have different ways of doing it, whereas in the Indian kitchen normally, we do start with sliced onions and spices. I'm not going to use onions today. I'm going to make it plain, just so you can then use what you want to influence the rice that you're working with. So I've got here what is called a tilde grand rice. So the grand, what they call, is a more expensive kind of basmati rice. The variety is known as Silla basmati. Tilde and others also do a pure basmati, and there's a third variety called the Colonel basmati. Now, Colonel basmati is mostly grown in Pakistan. Pure basmati mostly grown across the river on this side in India. And this rice is also grown in North India, where it comes from. The grain is much stronger and it is much longer. So it expands itself very nicely. And let's hope it does that today for us. The rice I have just washed and drained. I'm not soaking it for long. If you're boiling the rice with a boiled method, that means you drain the rice out afterwards, you can soak it longer. After that, it will take you about 6 to 8 minutes in boiling water. Whereas for a rice which is infused and cooked in the oven, we are giving it about 20 minutes. Okay? My temperature set is about 140. We normally go 135, 140, 130 is also good enough. If you have a combi oven, which is the one on top here, which is steam and heat, it works even better. You can have more steam, there's a little bit of dry heat in the pan, and your rice will be perfectly cooked within 30-35 minutes, a whole chafing dish. But today, we will be only cooking it dry in the oven. And there are many other rices that grow. Just for your knowledge, there are 40,000 varieties of rice grown in the world today commercially. 40,000, of which maybe the world that we know of in the Western world, we may be using 15 or 20 varieties, okay? India alone grows more than 5,000 varieties of rice. And so it is mostly in the local areas that people come from, in the rice growing regions, that they will use the rice from their particular region more. And basmati rice is only reserved for very special occasions. In India, we don't cook basmati rice every day. We would cook the rice that grows locally in our area, and basmati is reserved for the time when you have a visitor, when you have some guests, you want to impress people, there's something in the family, a celebration, then the basmati rice comes out. Another thing which unfortunately we have to adhere to is the age of the rice. Now, an Indian woman, or most of the rice growing regions of the world, they understand that they must buy the rice in the year of harvest and then not use it for 3 to 4 years. Okay? So my mother would buy fresh basmati rice, put it in a tub or a jar, seal it tight, make sure it's dark, it's not covered, and hide it. Okay, so we are at this time when landings will happen, okay? Thank God it's landing this way and not taking off this way. So if you have old aged rice, In India, you will pay a premium, just like buying a very expensive wine. If you bought a 10-year-old basmati, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Okay? Here, unfortunately, Bice is dated. It has got a sell-by date or a use-by date, and we chuck it out. But that's for Britain. We keep it that way. I've got 3 things on my board. These are spices. Okay? So I've got cassia bark, which is a family of cinnamon. It is also otherwise known as Indonesian cinnamon. And it is very different to cinnamon, rolled cinnamon bark, which I hope I have some here I can show you. So that's rolled cinnamon. That is called Ceylon cinnamon or Sri Lankan cinnamon. Though it grows in India as well, the name is Ceylon cinnamon, and it's got very fine quills. So when you break it, you got these very fine layers. That one is a thicker bark and is a similar, same family, except that we call it in India Chinese bark. Dal chini means bark of the Chinese. Apparently, the Chinese might have introduced to India, or they use it more frequently than Indians do, and you'll find them in all Chinese and Oriental supermarkets or shops, because they use quite a bit with red meats. Okay, here we use it as a flavoring agent. Now, the word spice, so I typically use the word spice just to explain to people. So today we are all about dispelling certain myths, okay? So have a look at these cloves. These are unfried, cloves which have not been fried. And I put a clove next to it that has been fried. Now if you look at the 2 cloves, one of them is big and expanded. The other one is small and tight. This is hard. That one I can now crush, literally with my fingers. It's powdered. The reason being, that's the difference between a spice and a condiment. So our turmeric, our chili, our cumin, our coriander, we term that as condiments. We do not term them as spices. Cinnamon, cardamom, cloves, peppercorn, nutmeg, mace, star anise, cassia bark, and saffron, and a few others. The difference between the 2 is the content of oil in a spice, which is absent in most other condiments, very tiny, minuscule amounts. So what we want in a flavor is the oil. The oil is the one that flavors. You don't eat the spice when it comes in your mouth. You normally put it aside. But if you do not extract the oil, you wasted it. So you don't just chuck it in. It's expensive. Cardamom is today like 40 pounds a kilo. You'd be wasting it. You need to heat it to extract the flavor. And we do it in oil. So the oil, when it heats the spice, it expands the spice. It penetrates the spice, dilutes the oil within the spice, and puts it back into your pan, which you cannot smell now, but I can smell it very clearly where I'm standing. So I'm just going to put in now a liter of water, okay? So I had I'm not putting the onions like I said, but I would have sauteed the onions. On another note, we have different kinds of rice we make. We caramelize the onion so the rice becomes nice and brown in color. But in that particular rice, we need to flavor it with star anise and black cardamom. And that is a pure dhansak rice. So that is very, very different to what we are doing now. Bit of salt. I'll just shut it down so I get, comes to the boil. The rice is washed till the water runs clean, and then it's drained out. So I'm not keeping it soaked like I said before, because it does not need soaking. The other thing we don't need in Britain is to wash it very, very, very thoroughly, or to pick the rice. Whereas if you are in India, you'd have to pick the rice, because it may come with tiny pebbles or barks or little twigs, and you must take them out. Okay, that's why we soak it. Anything that is light floats on top, you take it off, you chuck it away, and then you sift through it and look for anything that is not supposed to be in there. Even here, with all the care and attention that is given to milling and cleaning, sometimes a little pebble does get through to rice. So you might find that a customer one day complains that he's got a little bite over there. Okay, so that's it. Our water's boiling, okay, and the rice goes in. So this is half a kilo of rice, 1 liter of water. Okay, I'm not putting anything else inside. So you can put in turmeric, you can put in sliced onions, you can put in ginger, you can do what you like. What happens now is the first 4 or 5 minutes of it boiling, we need to keep watching it. because at the moment the rice is heavier than the water. So it's settling at the bottom. When the heat is hitting the rice directly, the starch is being extracted. So the starch is sticky. When it gets extracted at the bottom and you don't stir it, it's going to burn at the bottom of your pan. At the same time, it will start to cook the rice at the bottom more so than the rice at the top. And that is why sometimes cooking in a pot, you get very uneven cooking, because it takes time for the heat to permeate through. And the rice cooks in different stages and you think, oh, it's not good rice. No, maybe our technique wasn't right. Sometimes the rice is overly polished. Yes, it does break up. The rice is too young. Another tip for you, just to remember, when I spoke about 40,000 varieties of rice, when rice is harvested and it is brought in for milling, a normal average of 12% moisture is accepted after the harvest. So when the rice is first dried, the husk is taken off, or husk is not taken off, it comes to the mill for dehusking. It contains about 12% moisture, which is then reduced to 8%. It goes in the silos, it has to be dried a bit, and then it goes into 8%. When it is actually the best rice, because when it ages, the liquid, the moisture inside evaporates, comes to 2%. That's the best rice to cook. Younger rice will not cook as well. So have a look here. The water is being absorbed, okay? And this is what happens. So you have to watch it for the next 4 or 5 minutes and we'll put it straight in the oven. So as the water absorbs, you need to be careful. Try and cover the pan because you retain the heat inside and it's still steaming inside, so it's much nicer. You can have it exposed. Most chefs in the kitchen will do that because they are doing 5, 6 other things at the same time. And they will be watching it very, very slowly. Okay. So here I go. I will 2 more minutes. Yeah. So if you look at the rice now, the water is nearly absorbed. Okay. All we want to ensure there is no rice sticking on the sides. And it goes. Okay. Then we just shut it. We open the oven and we put it into the middle. Okay, and then we'll watch it. We'll set the timer for 20 minutes and we'll see how it comes out. Okay, that's it. So half a kilo rice, 1 liter water. Okay, so let's check. The alarm's gone off. Let's see if our rice is ready. It's had 20 minutes. Don't forget, sometimes rice do take longer, but you can always check that and then you can change it. So get a spoon. Let's open it, have a look. Okay, so it's cooked beautifully. As you can see, the important thing is nothing is stuck at the bottom. It's all clean. We need a fork to just fork it up. And I may not have a fork here, but let's use a pair of tongs. And later I'll show you, once we take it out in a dish, how much rice we actually get from half a kilo. Okay, so people feel that it's enough for 5. I think when you're serving other food, it's almost enough for 8 to 10 people. Okay, so I'll leave it as it is just now. Let it settle down and we'll take it out later. Right, so let's see if we can get what we wanted out of the rice. Okay, and we portion it out. Naturally, when you're making rice in bulk, you're going to take it out in a big tray so it cools faster and it cools better, and you got less chances of contamination. Right, so with rice, please be careful. As you know, you will learn in your health and safety, rice is to be looked after. And I'm just going to show you how much you can get out of half a kilo of rice. So people would panic and think you need 100 grams per person or 150 grams a person. It all depends on what you're serving, how you're serving, and with what you're serving. But as you will notice in the rice, we got all our grains are separate. If you have a look, our grains are all separate. They've grown beautifully. They've expanded. Okay, like that. And I'll just show you how much rice we get out of half a kilo. And the one big idea is your pan is clean. That's very important. So you don't have any rice burning at the bottom. Okay? So that's your half kilo of rice. Should weigh 1.5 kilos because we put in a liter of water in there. Should weigh 1.5 kilos. So it's now 1.5 kilos of rice from having 500 grams of raw rice. Okay? And the aroma, you can't smell it, but I can. The aroma is just fantastic. And these are the things that add to the aroma, plus the quality of the rice. Every rice has a different aroma. Every rice has its own peculiar smell, which only when you understand when you cook different kinds of rice to pick it up, and you know from a distance what rice is cooking in which house. Okay, thank you.